Hello, today I'm going to show you how to make ouzo at home. You know, the Greeks guard the technology for producing their ouzo so jealously that the information online is quite scarce, especially when it comes to the exact ingredients and proportions. In this video, I'll show you step by step how to recreate the authentic and classic taste of ouzo that you know from the store. As the main ingredient, I'll use high quality grape distillate, which in Bulgaria we call rakia. And for the other key herbs and the entire magical process, you'll need to stay until the end. Cheers and enjoy watching. Let's get started. For making quality ouzo, perhaps the most important ingredient is star anise. It's quite hard to find in Bulgaria, so anyone interested can write to me in the comments. I'll send them the details of where they can order it. The next ingredients can be found almost everywhere. This is clove, fennel seeds, and coriander as the necessary quantities for 35 to 40 liters. I repeat, the distillate, not ouzo, because we'll be making ouzo from the distillate. This is rakia distillate, which we've distilled once, and now we'll distill it a second time. So this distillate is called patoka, and for 35 liters of patoka, which we need to make with water at 30, we need to add water to make it 30 degrees. I'll explain why in a moment. The amount of herbs is 50 grams of fennel seeds, 50 grams of coriander, 1 kilogram of star anise, 3 grams of clove, and one more ingredient added at a later stage. You'll find out why later in the video. And I'll explain a bit more about it. Now, a few hours before we distill, my advice is to soak all the herbs in a bucket of patoka so that they soak, so to speak, and then extract the maximum flavors and aromas from them. So now I'm starting to pour them into the bucket. The packet of clove is 5 grams, so you have to be careful with it. You shouldn't pour it all in. I'm leaving some of it out. And now something very important. Star anise is not like regular anise, which is used to make the authentic Karlovo anise liqueur, for which I have a separate video on the channel. It has a quite different structure. Here it is. The seeds are inside the pod. And it is distilled together with the pods. Its aroma is a bit different and milder than regular anise, but to unlock its full aroma, we need to lightly crush each of the pods so that they break. The shell of the seed inside. See, it cracks very easily, but it will take a bit more work to crush all the pods. I crushed the anise with a small hammer and now it's going into the still. It's already in the still. 40 liters of patoka at 30, 32 to 33 degrees. I'm leaving it. Now I'll leave it for a few hours so that all the ingredients soak well. And then we'll start distilling. I've started distilling the patoka. I always use a gas burner to control the temperature. This is extremely important because with this thermometer I monitor the temperature of the steam in the still, and I want to show you something interesting. The steam in the still is not yet 70 degrees. And the ouzo is already starting to drip. These are the most harmful fractions. Also, with these first most harmful fractions, it collects the alcohol. It also collects all these green oxides that are in the coil, because in the pipe we can remove them very easily. I've shown you in one of my previous videos in which I show you how to make quality homemade rakia. But further down, the coil is very difficult to clean from the inside, from the oxides, which are extremely harmful. And here I would ask someone if they know of any working method specifically for cleaning the oxides from the coil, to write it in the comments. Probably all of you know that the first distillate should be separated, and the amount of the first distillate that we should separate is 2, even 3% of the total amount of the mash. So if we have 100 liters of mash, we should separate 2 to 3 liters of the first distillate. However, when we distill ouzo or aniseed spirit, a huge volume of the aromas and flavors are precisely in this first fraction, so I will also separate a small amount of the first distillate now, but I separated a large amount during the first distillation of the rakia. You can find the video on the channel. So when I set the mash for redistillation, I had already separated the first most harmful fraction from it. From the beginning, the alcohol starts to come out in spurts and even brings out from the coil quite fine particles and impurities. I'm not sure if they can be seen on camera, but gradually the stream starts to flow evenly. And it's time to add the last ingredient. Now I'll show you what it is. Natural gum mastic. This is what it looks like. Placing it right here. But if you don't have such a device, you can place it like this in the strainer and let the ouzo pass through the strainer, washing off these crystals. So, and stay until the end of the video because I have a lot more interesting and hopefully useful things to tell you. On this topic, namely how to make ouzo at home yourself. I also placed the alcohol meter inside, but it sank completely because the alcohol content is very high at the moment. I want to show you how it should flow. like this, absolutely evenly without surges. The good thing when distilling rakia, ouzo, or any alcohol when using a gas burner is that we control the strength of the fire. Gradually, the temperature of the steam starts to increase even though we maintain the same level of fire in the burner at the expense of the alcohol degree of the rakia or ouzo, as in this case, it starts to decrease gradually. That's why it's important to monitor the process very strictly, because the highest quality alcohol is the fraction between 78 and 92 degrees, I repeat, steam temperature. And here is the moment where very carefully I have to monitor. When the steam temperature exceeds 92 degrees, I will stop collecting the residual fraction. I will set it aside as tails for next year, for the next distillation, because very often in the fraction, an acidic, sweetish, or other streak with an unpleasant taste and aroma starts to appear. As I told you a little while ago, 92 degrees steam temperature and 40% alcohol content of the ouzo. I won't collect anymore. I will set aside this fraction and the remaining. I will also collect, but I will add it next year during the distillation. Unlike the difference from the anise, here our fraction starts to turn white when it reaches 40 degrees. So watch the process very carefully. This fraction also has quite a pleasant taste, but it contains many harmful fractions. So personally, I separate it and do not put it in the amur or the general quantity, to put it simply. When you distill the ouzo, the drink is still sharp. This comes from the light volatile compounds that are released at the beginning and end of the distillation. That's why after distillation, a simple but very important step is taken. And to make the ouzo drinkable and balanced, it is diluted with very soft demineralized water to about 40 to 46%. After diluting, leave the container open to give time for the most volatile and unwanted substances to separate. They evaporate more easily than ethanol, thus naturally purifying the drink. Then you close it, let it rest, and the taste settles, the smell comes down, and the ouzo becomes softer and more balanced. This is a small step, but it makes a big difference in the glass. After that, it takes weeks, sometimes even months, to balance aromatically and in taste. During this time, the esters and aromatic oils bond naturally, which softens the taste. In short, after distillation, the ouzo goes through purification processes until it transforms from a rough distillate into a gentle milky white drink that clouds beautifully when mixed with water or ice. Cheers!